Hey guys, how are you doing? In this work here, our dear protagonist is the most popular guy in school, but he gets a system telling him he needs to save the world from dates. Actually, the powers of a parallel universe ended up in our world, and some girls gained little witch powers. And to keep the balance, our guy will have to go on dates with them. This so that our world would not be devastated in an apocalypse. So Wander will have to win the heart of each of these little witches. Chapter 0 already shows all these girls with powers. But I won't give you spoilers, guys. I won't tell what their powers are because each one has a different power. But know that Wander will have to win each of them. And the only power our guy has is being able to resist their spells. This protagonist of ours is very lucky, guys. Think of a dude who always gets along, especially because all the little witches are very beautiful. And among them, there will be a hidden character. The ones I was showing here to illustrate the introduction are the first little witches that appear. As usual, leave your like and a comment to help the channel and check if you're subscribed. Without further delay, let's go to the video. The story begins with Wander walking at school. The system had appeared to him a few days before and was mad because our guy didn't want to fulfill the missions. At that moment, a girl shows up behind him and yells at him to get out of the way. This girl ends up bumping into everyone and seemed like she was running away from someone. Right after, the principal comes saying that this boy had to hold the student, and the only thing Wander thinks is that this wasn't his problem. But since he was a good student, he obeys the principal and touches the redhead's shoulder. She gives a smile and, turning to him, keeps staring at him. The system warns, saying that she was a little witch. Until then, Wander wasn't believing in this system story, but she cast a spell saying he had to help her. Her eyes shone and she told him to stop the principal. Little by little, he loses consciousness and the enchantment spell goes straight to his heart. The old man was thanking Wander for stopping the girl from running away, but our protagonist ends up holding the principal. He realized that the system was actually telling the truth, and with that, the redhead manages to jump the wall and escape from the principal. The man gets mad, saying she left, and even asks what the hell one of the best students in school was doing helping that delinquent. But our guy says to stay calm, because the school sidewalk was being concreted, and on the other side of the wall we hear the girl screaming that her foot was stuck in the cement. After that, she ends up getting caught and the principal gives her a punishment. This girl's name was Sophia, and she even asks if Wander knew that it was a trap. And she still swears she will take revenge on him because of this humiliation. After realizing that the little witches were real, the boy decides to listen to the system's story. So they go to a reserved place. The system says it came to bring balance to Earth because the little witches' powers weren't supposed to have been awakened. If the boy didn't help, the world would be ruined. Wander asks why the system didn't say that right away. While he was in the bathroom, the system ends up following him and keeps telling this story. Our guy thought this was nonsense. It made no sense for the world to be destroyed because of magical powers, and he even asked if it would be necessary for him to stop these little witches using a magical warrior girl outfit. Who got the reference? Comment down below. But that wasn't what he needed to do. Actually, Wander had to win the hearts of these girls. Even while he was taking tests, the system stays there saying he must take his mission seriously. Damn it, system, stop disturbing my tests, man. At that moment, he realized he was too focused talking to that magical entity. He had even gone to a teacher's room to deliver his schoolwork, and the woman said he had great grades and should keep focusing on his studies, and while he was there in front of the teacher, he kept talking to the system. It seems, guys, that he can talk freely with the system, and nobody around him finds it strange. The dude was clearly talking to himself, but the teacher thought it was normal. Apparently, he wanted the system to give him a reward for doing these missions, but the entity said it was forming an army of saviors, and the only payment would be a candy, but that reward was way too cheap. The teacher said Wander's mental health evaluation was very good, and that he had a great future ahead, because he was very mature for his age. Our guy thanks her and the system keeps celebrating because it chose the right student. But this entity wouldn't stop talking, and the guy was already losing patience, saying he wouldn't do any mission. A week had already passed, and he remembers that the system said there would be other candidates to save the world, but since he was popular and handsome, he would attract the little witches to him. That was the only reason the system had chosen our guy. At that moment, a girl shows up calling Wander's name. Her name was Julia, and she told him not to go back to the classroom because there was a strange girl causing trouble inside. And we see that it was Sophia, kicking a desk and looking for him. She wanted revenge for the humiliation and kept saying she didn't like nerds since he got a perfect grade. Our hero thanks Julia and said she could leave it to him, that he would solve it. She tries to stop him and it even seems like she likes him. Then, the girl keeps wondering what kind of relationship he has with that crazy one. Sophia said he finally arrived and our guy already starts apologizing for what happened last week. The pride I lost last week, I'll recover it myself. Touching her chin, she gives an order and ends up activating her special power. Smiling, she thought her revenge plan had worked. And deep down, Julia was watching everything, feeling sorry for our protagonist. What Sophia really wanted was to humiliate Wander. She even imagines herself as if she were a villain, holding a whip and hitting him, bragging and saying she will make him feel the same humiliation she had. I bet you would like to be humiliated by this girl. Quick, boy, call me master. But our guy holds the girl's wrist. This makes her feel embarrassed. And in a very gentlemanly way, he said he would do whatever she wanted, and ends up kissing her hand. Of course, this makes Sophia melt completely, and the crowd in the back keeps saying Wander is very brave and that he has a new girlfriend. But of course, Julia gets jealous and leaves. Meanwhile, Sophia keeps trying to understand why he is doing this kind of thing, since she didn't even order him to. Actually, the system gave only one power. He was immune to the little witch's spells, but he thinks this power is useless and keeps squeezing the little entity's cheeks. Incredibly, that was the only power it could give the boy, but thinking better, he could use this power a lot. He keeps thinking of some alternatives to make the girls fall in love, but if he used too much of the spell resistance power, it could have side effects. That's why he had to use it in moderation. But our boy was there kissing the girl. She ends up pulling her hand away, but he holds it again. He knew using her innocence was a little unfair, but it was the weapon he had to make her fall in love. He ends up dancing with the girl in a somewhat forced way. Pulling her hand, he brings her very close to his body, and right after makes the girl fall into his arms. Think of a romantic guy. She wasn't even able to resist, but accidentally ends up hitting a knee on his eggs and almost breaks the yolk. At that moment, someone enters the room, and it was the principal. He asks what Sophia was doing there since she didn't even study in that class, and while our protagonist was dying of pain, the principal ends up taking her back to her classroom. The redhead says that this time it wasn't her fault but Wander's, and the system keeps mocking our hero, asking if that knee strike was part of her ability. The classmates go to him and ask if he was dating that troublesome girl. They say they didn't know he was so popular to the point of dating anyone. Pushing his classmate back into the room, he said it wasn't like that, and turning to Julia, he said she called him at the right time. But she said she didn't do that, and even commented that he handled it alone. "What's up, Rep? You saved me. And if you need any help, you can count on me." Actually, she did want help. Look at her face. It's obvious she's in love with Wander. But at that moment, he started feeling sick because of the side effects of his power. Worried, she gets closer, asking if he was feeling okay. At that moment, she ends up touching his hand. And because of that, she also starts feeling sick and almost falls face first on the floor. At the last second, our hero holds her arm. He prevents her from hitting the floor hard, but ends up falling on top of the girl. As always, there has to be those embarrassing scenes. The strange thing was that she fainted out of nowhere. The system shows up saying that he found another little witch. Incredibly, this girl also had a power. He tries to cover it up, pretending he didn't bump into her opasas. At that moment, he realizes she was asking for help to get up and ends up reaching out his hand to her. But our boy was smart and already suspected that her power required physical contact. The system keeps warning him not to touch the little witches, but our hero wasn't going to refuse a beautiful girl's request for help and ends up giving her his hand. That way, he helps the girl up while the system keeps swearing. She apologizes in thought and ends up activating her power. At this moment, a very strong light begins to shine around them. "So, Rep, are you okay? Want me to take you to the infirmary?" He even asks if it was hypoglycemia, but she said no. For those who don't know, hypoglycemia is a condition where blood glucose level drops below normal. This can cause dizziness. He had realized she used the power but didn't know how it worked. Trying to hide it so she wouldn't suspect anything, he said that if she needed anything, she could count on Willie, but she was a little sad and only replied yes. Actually, guys, she was jealous. She said he was very kind but wanted him to treat her the same way he treated that other girl. And she even thinks that he should only be that kind with her. The boy ends up saying goodbye, but she wanted to invite him on a date. But that was very difficult, guys, and she keeps gathering courage. When he was about to leave, she ends up holding his uniform. This draws the attention of all the gossiping students who keep pointing their faces out the window. "What was that, Rep?" "Well, actually, I'd like to ask you something. You can say anything. If you need help, I'm here at your disposal." She keeps stammering and can't speak properly. She was going to organize part of a film festival and wanted his help, and she asks if he would like to go with her to the mall to buy some movie posters tomorrow. The guy gives a smile and says it's settled. Tomorrow he will meet her. The classmates in the hallway get emotional and start shouting, saying Wander is very popular. After class, our protagonist goes home. He didn't know why, but he agreed to help the system conquer the little witches. He had confirmed the ability of the first girl, who was Sophia. She basically could give orders to people. The system says he could have discovered the power of that other girl. And our hero already starts pressing her, asking why she didn't use the power to block spells. He had even given a thumbs up behind his back, signaling for the system to activate his power and block the spell. If it had blocked at that moment, our hero would have been able to identify what the girl's power was. But that didn't matter because he already suspected Julia's power was to read thoughts. At that moment, he ends up hearing a noise at the door. When he least expects it, he ends up taking a martial arts blow. It was his sister who starts putting him in an arm lock. Wander ends up hitting his head hard on the floor and she keeps humiliating him. His little sister's name was Xiao, and she wanted to know why she was smelling a stray cat scent on him. She already suspected he was going out with some girl. He tries to beg her to let go and ends up handing her a note saying he would cook for her as compensation. With a little laugh, Xiao said that wasn't enough. So he gives another note saying he would give her a massage, and finally hands over one more note saying he would help with homework. Since Wander's gifts were very good, she ended up accepting, and after taking the little notes, she said he had to rest well to do the tasks later. A little ironically, the system keeps saying his little sister had good skills. And going back to her room, Xiao keeps hugging her teddy bear. She gets sulky because no matter what she does, he always treats her well, and what she really wanted to know was who that stray cat was circling her little brother. To try to find some clues, she decides to use her power. She starts concentrating and right after activates her spell. Yeah guys, she was also a little witch. And I don't know why, but the system couldn't identify it. She manages to see through the wall and keeps spying on her brother. She had suspected there was a girl around him, that's why she wanted to know who it was. At that moment, she noticed he was staring intently at his phone. Suddenly, he starts taking off his shirt. This makes Xiao's cheeks turn red. Right after, she covers her eyes not to see that scene but ends up opening a little finger to peek. He was completely focused on the phone, and because of the things he was looking at, you can already imagine what she ended up witnessing. That even makes Xiao mad, saying her brother does indecent things and that she wouldn't forgive the girl sending those pictures. I know this scene is very embarrassing, but she kept watching everything through her power. It even makes her nose bleed. Who knows what that means? Comment below. He ended up hearing her falling on the bed. But that, guys, was nothing more than Xiao's imagination. He was only replying to some messages. Julia was asking what time they would meet. After confirming the time, he ends up putting on his new clothes. His little sister had bought this outfit for him. He even comments that she knows his size very well. The system asks why he has so many clothes like that, and our hero says it was his sister who gave them as a gift. Stopping to think, it was very strange that Xiao knew exactly his size. Realizing Wander was meeting Julia to make her fall in love, the system gets all happy. He had finally accepted the war against the little witches. These ability users, if not stopped, could bring the apocalypse to humanity. They were like parasites and shouldn't exist in this world. Our hero didn't really believe these stories and kept saying the system was exaggerating. A little later, he ends up arriving at the shopping center. From afar, he sees that Julia had already arrived at the agreed place. The poor girl, guys, was trying to decide how she would greet Wander. She even sees a couple passing very close and wonders if she should also have a more romantic approach. At that moment, our hero shows up and the girl gets startled. He asks why she arrived so early. As he gets closer, he asks if Julia would like to eat something first, and she says yes. While walking, she tries to touch our hero, but notices he was wearing a glove. He gives a little excuse, saying he burned himself while cooking. Actually, he discovered she could only read thoughts when she had physical contact with someone. A little sad, she said it was fine, but wanted to know how she was going to read his mind. Then they start deciding what kind of food they would order. The guy had spent the whole night researching the restaurants and starts giving lots of details. And incredibly, Julia was also a nerd and had researched all the restaurants in the mall. After spending several minutes deciding, they end up choosing to eat traditional food. He had paid close attention to Julia and knew that she liked pineapple buns. This guy here, he is detail-oriented, folks, so he ends up telling her that after eating the traditional food, they could get a dessert. This surprises Julia because he knew exactly what she liked. From below, we see that someone was spying on him, and it was Zhao. She was jealous of her brother and wanted to know who that stray cat was. Seeing that there was a girl close to her brother, she even ends up breaking the cup. I won't let this girl ruin my brother. A cafeteria employee said that the girl had broken the table and that she should pay. When Wander and Julia arrive at the cafeteria to get dessert, someone had already gotten there first. There were only 3 pineapple buns left, and Wander comments to Julia that they are lucky because they could eat dessert. His sister ends up hearing this and orders 3 buns. She wanted them wrapped to send 3 pineapple buns. They were the last ones in the bakery, and Julia said it was no problem because they could come back another time. Wait a second, I think I recognize that girl. Xiao manages to escape and starts eating the bun. And she even says that Stray Cat had great taste because the bun was delicious. After handing them a menu, the seller said they could take a look at the promotion. That week, if they managed to eat a bun together, they would get a prize. This ends up catching Julia's attention and she asks, what do we have to do? Actually, it was just spinning the wheel to decide the bun size. And next, the couple should eat the bun together and then win the prize. And she keeps saying this is a perfect game for couples like them, making Julia embarrassed. All shy, the girl says that actually they are not a couple. She was afraid this would make the protagonist uncomfortable. Noticing the situation, he touches her shoulder and tells the seller that they really want to participate. This guy is the last romantic on Earth. This makes the seller surprised and the little girl in the back also startled. Turning to his friend, he asks if it was okay. And of course she said yes, since she was in love with Wander. Spinning the wheel, the seller keeps saying they should hope for the bun to come out really tiny. It seems Zhao's secret plan ended up going down the drain, but she had a secret technique, throwing a dart to influence the result. She was very good at this and always stayed around her brother to stop him from getting a girlfriend. So her goal was to throw a clip and make the bun really big so they couldn't eat it. But when she was throwing the clip, someone appears holding her by the hood. That's why she misses and the clip lands on the option of a 1-inch bun. Actually, 1 inch was a micro bun. The seller starts celebrating, saying they were very lucky. Is it just me or did something fly by here on my side? At the same time, on the second floor, Xiao was getting scolded by security. She said that if the man didn't let her go, she would call the police, but he showed photos of the broken table and also the spilled soda cup. If she didn't pay, she would have to suffer the consequences. A little embarrassed, she said she didn't have money to pay for that, and the man says that if she didn't have money, she would have to pay with her own body. Of course, she starts to panic, thinking he meant other things. But actually, paying with her own body meant doing some cleaning service in the restaurant, and they already take the little girl away to wash the back area. Meanwhile, our protagonist was doing well because they would have to eat a micro bun. Julia, who was all shy, stood there very timid. Next, they grabbed the bun together, straight with their mouths, and it was a very romantic scene. She comments that Wander was so close she could even feel his breath. The people watching are smitten, saying that couple was very beautiful. The system keeps pressuring the boy, saying that he can't even hug, not even touch the girl. At that moment, she ends up slipping, of course, right? And so she bumps into him. To keep the girl from falling on the floor, he would need to act quickly. And so he grabs Julia's waist and, after eating the bun, plants a kiss on the girl. That one really was the last romantic on Earth. People even fire blanks saying they did very well and won the promotion. For him, it was just another Saturday. But for Julia, it was being the best day of her life. The prize was a plush of the King of Pineapple Buns, and he ends up embarrassed because everyone was watching. In a very cute way, she thanks him and invites him to watch a movie together. But after inviting, she gets embarrassed and makes an excuse, saying that if he didn't want to, it was fine. But of course, our hero wouldn't refuse and ends up accepting. Meanwhile, at the cafeteria, Zhao ends up escaping and said she would come back very quickly. Actually, she went to the cinema to try to mess up our protagonist's date. This time, her plan was not going to fail. She goes to a session that was about to start and buys almost all the tickets. The seller finds this a little strange, and our hero, watching everything, notices that girl showed up there again, and surprisingly bought all the seats and left only two, sitting right in the middle. It almost seemed like she was doing it on purpose. Wander keeps thinking about it. He apologizes to Julia, but she said it didn't matter, because that made the session even more exciting. The movie was quite sad, and Xiao ends up crying during the session. The two turn to the girl, and Julia offers her a tissue to dry her face. She ends up accepting thanks, and even said she would not let herself be fooled by that stray cat. For sure that woman only wanted to steal her brother. After a while, the session finally ends. And while the little girl was leaving very angry, our hero keeps telling Julia that they should go buy the posters. Arriving at the store, they had spent about 80. The man even said they had good taste in movies since they had bought posters of Saving Soldier Tom and the movie Jarek's Redemption. If you know the original movie and not this parody, comment below. Since they bought those posters, they would get as a bonus 2 tickets to a theme park. Xiao, who was following them, ended up spitting water when she heard that. And the guy stays in the back commenting that couples nowadays are very cute. But of course Xiao was dying of jealousy, so she immediately asked that seller how to get those tickets, and that if by chance he didn't give them right away, she would beat him up. That theme park was on the other side, right in front of the mall. Wander ends up holding Julia's arms and said they should walk very close to each other so she wouldn't get lost. Meanwhile, Xiao, trying to look for her brother, purposely bumps into their hands so the girl would get lost. And it worked because Wander was no longer finding Julia in the middle of the crowd. The little girl had stolen a security vest from an employee and went there to return it. Right after, the guy was left not understanding what she had done with the vest. Back to Julia, she was lost, looking for Wander. Someone ends up poking the girl's arm and starts offering a gym subscription. Since Julia is naive, she doesn't know how to say no, and ends up accepting that pamphlet. This draws the attention of other sellers who were also there offering their products, and everyone kept asking the girl to buy their products too. Julia was very innocent, poor thing, and stays there scanning all the QR codes from the pamphlets. Xiao, who was watching that, starts to feel guilty, especially because a group of delinquents began surrounding the young girl. At that moment, someone shows up to save her and slaps the thug in the face. It was none other than little Xiao, who was there to protect the girl. The crazy guy asks how such a little kid had the courage to hit him, and extending her hand, she said she was a taekwondo master and challenged him to a fight. But since the slap he took was strong, he got scared, and that's why everyone ran away. Julia thanks the little girl who showed up to save her, and just look at all the pamphlets she was holding. Trying to hide her face, Xiao said it was nothing much, and next keeps scolding Julia, saying she needs to have more character and learn to say no to people. If it weren't for Xiao, that girl would have gone bankrupt from buying so many products from those pamphlets. It doesn't matter, I will help you find my brother, I mean your partner. But at that moment, another group of delinquents arrives there. Those guys had run away and called their boss, and since he was a big guy, little Xiao got scared. At that moment, Julia stepped in front because she would not let a little kid get beaten by some thugs. This ends up catching Xiao's attention while Julia told her to run away from there. She had realized that this stray cat was not just any stray cat. Using the witch detector, our hero manages to reach them, and the big guy asks if by chance Wander was with those girls. Stepping in front, he said yes, and in a frightening way he puts his hand on our hero's shoulder. The little villain in the back already thinks the boss was going to beat that boy up, But actually, he calls our hero master and apologizes for the misunderstanding. That little villain can't believe it. In fact, this bald guy was our hero's senior and had graduated about 3 years ago. A little embarrassed, the guy says he misses those times. When he was about to graduate in the 3rd year, he found out he would repeat the year because he had gotten bad grades. But who showed up there to save him was none other than Wander. Our hero helped him with studies, and because of that, the chubby guy managed to graduate. Actually, helping him was quite easy, and after handing over some papers that would help with the tests, the chubby guy promised he would always help whenever necessary. From then on, the guy began to admire Wander, but our protagonist said it was nothing much and that he even thanked him for his help. Trying to clarify the misunderstanding, the chubby guy says that little girl slapped his friend in the face. Xiao defends herself saying she was only trying to protect Julia. Realizing it was his colleague who started the whole fight, the big guy slaps the henchman in the face and right after punches him, saying he shouldn't mess with his little brother's friends. He even begs forgiveness from our hero. After solving the problems, Xiao tries to sneak away, but our protagonist knew that was his sister. Trying to cover it up, she said she didn't know any Shang, but it didn't work. Our protagonist goes there and rips off her disguise. He already knew something strange was going on, and that's why he suspected his sister from the start. Bending down, she apologizes, saying she had made a mistake. Julia finds this interesting since her little sister was following him out of concern. Handing a note to Julia, Xiao says it was an apology. It was a ticket to a movie that would start in about half an hour. She would do this as a way to make up for causing trouble and even starts pushing them, saying they should have a proper romantic date. But Julia ends up holding the girl's arms and says it would be better if the 3 of them watched the movie together. That would ruin their date, but it was fine because he agreed to take his little sister along. And so the 3 go back to the cinema. Our hero finds it strange because his little sister said she got those 3 tickets as a bonus, but usually they gave an even number of tickets. When they got to the session, they understood very well why the bonus was 3 tickets. Actually, the movie was about a love triangle. He even mentions that it was good his little sister wasn't watching that kind of thing. Julia also noticed she was asleep, and asking Julia to be quiet, he says it wasn't good to wake his little sister. This makes Julia fall in love, knowing the boy cared about his sister. After they leave, Jaw keeps asking what that movie was all about. She even comments that it was strange because the guy seemed to be hitting on both girls. Julia didn't really know what to say and just kept agreeing, saying the movie wasn't good. As he got closer, our hero wipes his sister's mouth and hears her complaining about the movie. Julia had already said before that she liked the movie, but ended up agreeing with Jaw, saying the movie was really bad. At that moment, he realized the girl had no personality and always agreed with others to avoid conflict. Trying to teach Julia a lesson, he slams his hand on the table and says he disagrees with his little sister because that movie was magnificent. That love triangle was very well written by the director, and it deepened the romantic relationship between them. Disagreeing even more, the little girl keeps saying that movie was cliché and only stupid people would like such a movie. Realizing all that arguing, Julia tries to calm the 2 down. But our protagonist was only doing this so that Julia would understand it was normal to have disagreements. Small arguments now and then served to strengthen the relationship, and he knew that very well. "Hey Zhang, do you hate me just because we disagree with each other?" he said, pouting. She replied no. Even disagreeing with her big brother, she loved him with all her heart. He smiles and says he also loves her very much. That makes the little girl feel smug, but then she realized her brother had said he loved her, so she got embarrassed and ended up punching him a few times, saying he shouldn't say that out loud. Right after, he looks at Julia to see if she had noticed what was happening. As he stands up, our big guy offers to get tea for the 2 girls. Xiao said she wanted the same as always. Getting very close to Julia, he asks if she also wanted the same tea as before, but she said no. She was starting to be able to disagree with people. And a little shy, she said she would like a mint tea with less sugar. Smiling, our hero knew it had worked. Not everyone is obliged to always agree with others, and disagreeing is part of human relationships. After drinking the tea, our protagonist hands over a gift bag. She gets curious and opens it to see what it was, discovering it was a plush capybara. The girl really liked it and asks how he knew she liked that animal. "Actually, when we went into the mall, you kept looking at the toy machine." "That's why I figured you liked capybaras," he said. Feeling guilty, Xiao apologizes for having ruined their date, but Julia was extremely in love because the guy had noticed her tastes. And besides being romantic, he also took good care of his sister. That made Julia even more attracted to him. Since the first date was ruined by Xiao, she asked Wander to meet with her again. He was still arguing with his little sister, and when he heard the word date, he got embarrassed. The 2 were so red they looked like chili peppers, but he ends up agreeing to go out with her again. Of course, Xiao was dying of jealousy, because she liked her little brother a lot. At that moment, his phone starts ringing, and the scare he took was so big that he dropped the device on the floor. Xiao asks if by chance it was a call from that girl, making Julia curious. And hiding behind Julia, she asks if it wasn't a call from Meng Po. Meng Po is a folklore figure, guys. In Chinese mythology, she was known as the Lady of Forgetfulness Tea, who made people lose their memory. But this was just a little prank from his sister. After answering the phone, our hero says his name, and on the other end of the line the girl comments that he took 32 seconds to answer. This time he had taken longer than usual, and that was the president of the student council, our dear Lou. She was holding a watch and ends up breaking it, complaining that our big guy took too long to answer. "May I know why the president is calling me on a Saturday?" he asks. She replies by asking if she couldn't bother him with something important. And the little girl is there, trembling with fear. Actually, there would be a contest at school, and it was decided that the student council members would supervise to make sure nothing bad happened. That's why each member would be responsible for accompanying a problematic student. The president wanted Wander to be responsible for Sophia. Putting his hand on his face, he asks, "Why the hell does this person end up with me?" It's because she was a girl he had already interacted with before, so it would be easier. Going to Sophia's house, she still wanted to get revenge on Wander, and even asks how he dared humiliate her again in front of everyone. That attitude of the big guy made her very embarrassed, and she even comments she wouldn't let that happen again, but we know that, in reality, she was in love with him. She was telling these things to a friend, who soon asked why the hell Sophia wanted to get revenge on that guy, and she keeps saying it was solely and exclusively because he had humiliated her. The friend comments that Sophia was actually in love, then she grabs her cell phone and throws it far away, screaming loudly from her room that she didn't like that boy. That draws her parents' attention. The next day, very early, she wakes up with her cell phone alarm. She was having a hard time getting up and keeps complaining, saying she didn't want to go to school, but the noise in the living room was too loud, so she goes there to see who was bothering her. When she arrives, she ends up coming across our dear Wander. The atmosphere becomes a bit awkward, and not knowing where to hide her face, the girl asks what the hell that boy was doing there. She quickly closes the door and hides. Sophia's father apologizes to Wander, saying his daughter wasn't used to visitors. A little shy, she asks if by chance her dream had come true. So just imagine what she was dreaming about, guys. She even pinches her own cheek to see if it wasn't part of the dream, and already throws herself on the bed, complaining that the boy only wanted to humiliate her. A few minutes later, she returns to the living room, now dressed in her school uniform. Grabbing Wander's collar, she starts pulling him, saying she wanted to have a serious talk with him. But the girl's father slams his hand on the table and says little Wander is the best student in school, so she should follow his example and not mistreat the boy. That makes the redhead even more stressed, and she starts squeezing his arm. When saying goodbye, our hero tells the girl's parents not to worry because he would take care of Sophia, and the boy kept wondering why she was acting that way. Near the school, Sophia asks why he went to her house. Then he explains it was an order from the student council and apologizes to the redhead, making her even more embarrassed. She would be part of a school contest, and since she was considered a delinquent, he would have to keep an eye on her. So basically, he would take care of her for a few days and hands over the report. After checking that paper, she realizes it was true. Since the girl had left home without having breakfast, she complained she was hungry. When touching her pocket, she realizes she had also forgotten her cell phone at home, so Wander offers to pay for her breakfast. Trying to play hard to get, she accepts, saying she would only do it because he was insisting, and so they go to a cafeteria in front of the school. That makes the girl mad, saying he had taken her to a cheap stall. As she stands up, she complains she shouldn't have trusted him, because he was going to buy her just any breakfast. Calm down, my dear, eat first before judging. But she was a lady and didn't eat just any kind of thing. Minutes later, we see her burping with a full belly and still rubbing her tummy, saying it was delicious. The biggest question of all was how he managed to find such good food near the school, and he said it was because of his little sister. She said the school breakfast was very bad and always wanted to skip because of that, so he promised he would find a place very close to school with delicious food. Because of that, he spent several days researching good food. The guy tried every type of food until he finally found that cafeteria. There they had very good and also cheap food. The delinquent didn't want to admit it, but she really liked it. She even wonders if that was really how interaction between siblings should be, and we can already imagine she didn't get along very well with her family. And that's exactly what Wander asks. He wanted to know what her interaction with her family was like, but at that moment a group of delinquents shows up there cursing the girl and says that last time she had beaten his brother, so the guy came to take revenge. She says she is not to blame for that since his brother was kicking a cat and she just defended the little animal. The scoundrel who used to hit animals keeps saying that it was none of her business, but if by chance they caused trouble at that stall, it could bring loss to the owner of the establishment. Deep down, Wander asks them to calm down. He also said they should leave that place, since it was a sacred place of food. Minutes later, they end up jumping the school wall, since they were late, and it happened that the principal was right behind her, and once again she ends up getting caught. The guy gets angry, saying that last time she wrote a 500-word essay saying she regretted being late, and to the principal's surprise, the best student in school had also jumped the wall. Turning around and noticing this scene, the old man can't believe what he is seeing. Wander gets embarrassed and says, "Hello, principal. What happened, my son? Were you late too? Did something happen at your house?" "No, principal, don't worry. Sophia and I were late because something unexpected happened." The principal is shocked since he should encourage Sophia to be a great student and not the other way around. "All right, principal." Just give us the essay right away and we'll write it." And with his cheeks bruised, our hero explained to the principal that they were only late because some delinquents were chasing them, and they had to jump the wall to escape those troublemakers. And this fight started because Sophia had protected a kitten. If by chance the principal doubted, he just had to look over the wall, since the bullies were still out there in the street. Realizing that this story was true, the principal decides to think a little about the punishment. Sophia realized Wander was protecting her, and besides that, he managed to convince the principal. At that moment, the old man's phone rings and the one calling was the president of the student council. She wanted to know if Wander had been late today, and the old man said yes, asking how she knew that. She knew because she had some contacts and had called the principal to ask him something. Lou wanted the principal to punish Wander along with Sophia. The chubby old man asks why she was saying that. Then Lou explains that Wander is serving as a guide for Sophia to join the school contest, and making them go unpunished would open the way for other students to also do wrong things. The principal said she had a point and would reconsider whether he would punish him or not. After hanging up the phone, he decides to give both of them proper punishment, asking them to write an essay and also clean the court. This makes the redhead angry, who starts cursing the principal, but our hero ends up holding her. But thinking about it, Sophia never imagined that a nerd like Wander could be so strong. That's because he defeated all those little thugs. A little embarrassed, he explains that he only knows martial arts to be able to deal with his sister since she was very strong. And a little sad, she says she doesn't understand this sibling relationship of his since they get along very well. At that moment, she ends up giving a bandage to our hero. It even had a little heart drawn on it, and she gets all embarrassed. A little shy, he ends up accepting it. And when saying goodbye, she says that after class they should meet at the gym to clean the court, as the principal had asked. Doing her best, she thanks him for helping her deal with those thugs. She was very proud, so that was very difficult. She even ended up running away from there out of embarrassment. Right after, our hero takes his phone and starts sending some messages. In the hallways, everyone was gossiping about Wander. He was already popular, and now he was the most talked about student in school, since he was dating 2 girls. People also said that he had fought in the street. That's why Julia comes running to know if he was okay. She even noticed he had a bandage on his cheek with a little heart drawing. "Don't worry, Julia. This wasn't a big deal at all." Meanwhile, the boy's phone was flooding with messages. Lewis said that everything that happened was very unexpected. Our hero's plan had worked, and Sophia signed the petition to join the contest. Last week, when she had called Wander explaining about the contest, he had come up with a plan. He knew a secret technique for Sophia to accept participating. That's because he had spent the entire night studying the girl and also her personality. He knew she liked loyal people. That's why he had a plan. He had studied exactly the moment those delinquents would appear and knew they would want to take revenge on Sophia. Finally, he synchronized the exact moment of the principal's patrol so they would jump the wall at the right time, and also asked Lou to call the principal, asking to give them proper punishment. All of this so he would be punished along with Sophia. And since they would be punished together, this would bring them closer. During class, the teacher was explaining about parallel lines, and Sophia was paying attention to the subject, but she couldn't stop thinking about our hero. And everything the teacher said, she tried to relate to the protagonist. At that moment, she even slapped her face, saying she couldn't keep thinking about him. And the teacher ends up throwing a piece of chalk at the girl's forehead, telling her to wake up. Right after, she takes her phone and starts doing some research. She wanted to know if she was really in love, and she checked all the items on the list. There was no escape, girl. You really are in love. After class, someone ends up going to Sophia's room, and it was Yo herself. She wanted to know if it was this girl who made her brother fight. Of course, the redhead was already worried, and even wondered if this girl was really that protective. Trying to look unconcerned, Sophia said yes, it was her, and instead of being upset, Jo was all happy, thanking Sophia. She had always been worried about her brother because he was very strong, but no one knew that, and now that he fought outside the school, everyone would find out, all thanks to our dear redhead. She keeps thinking that Wander's sister is really very cute, and even imagines she would make a great sister-in-law. Right after, someone appears holding the girl by her clothes, and it was her brother himself, saying she shouldn't be causing trouble in the classroom. When saying goodbye to Sophia, he says that after classes they should meet at the court to clean it. And people in the background keep saying that they are dating, and the girl tries to fake arrogance, but in fact she was melting, in love. Meanwhile, Lee was watching everything from the student council room. She even comments that Wander was doing better than planned, but since everything was going too smoothly, she says it wouldn't be exciting and that she needed to stir things up. After class, they go to the court. Sophia had arrived with a broom to clean, but ended up running into Julia there. She had heard that Wander was going to clean the court with Sophia, so she came along to spy. But of course the redhead didn't like it, and asked what that nosy girl was doing in the court. A little shy, she said she came to help Wander, but in fact she was just jealous. The two turn to Wander and ask who he would like to help. A little embarrassed, our big guy says that both could help, but they end up hitting him, sending the boy flying away. The system keeps saying he needs to solve this quickly because 2 little witches were fighting. It was as if 2 evil beasts were at war. Grabbing mops and brooms, they already start cleaning the whole place. Didn't I tell the representative I was going to clean the court? Who could have told her? But we know this was all a setup by the student council president, and pressing the button, she said it was to make things more fun. Back at the gym, they were finishing cleaning the pool edges, but Lou ends up pressing that button, making both of them slip and fall into the pool. She knew the two girls couldn't swim and did that exactly to cause confusion. Hearing the screams, our hero enters the gym and asks what was happening. The two girls who couldn't swim were drowning. Looking at the lifesaver storage, he saw it was empty. All of this was a manipulation by the president so our hero would put himself in that situation. Without thinking twice, he jumps into the pool and dives deep to save them. The president was watching everything and asks which one he would choose to save first. There wouldn't be time to save both. That's because when someone was drowning, they panicked and grabbed whoever was in front. So when he approached one of them, the girl would grab him tightly. But our big guy goes there and gives a little tap on each of their necks. Not even President Lou expected that. And since the girls fainted because of that tap, he managed to save them. The redhead ends up waking up and realizes Wander was giving mouth-to-mouth to Julia. She realized he had already done that to her, which was why she was already awake. The guy didn't understand how the two fell at the same time. It even seemed like a very strange coincidence, and looking at the camera, he keeps wondering if this was the president's doing. Now that the two were wet, the president stays there in her room wondering how he will react. Of course, the two wanted to show off to our hero and kept acting cute. They even say they didn't mind being wet like that and that they weren't embarrassed. But young Master Wander knew very well this was something they were only doing to seduce him, so he tears his uniform and ends up giving each of them a piece. President Liu keeps commenting that Wander never stopped surprising her, and when leaving she said this guy is worthy of being her vice president. I bet you can't guess who the next little witch is. Actually, I think it was already pretty obvious, right? When he gets home, the big guy keeps complaining that his back hurt. He imagines that the fact that the two fell into the pool at the same time was the work of another little witch, and the system asks if by chance he figured out who the other parasite is. Pressing the system, he said not to call the little witches that way because it sounded really bad. Actually, the entity felt there were many little witches inside the school, and they would need to identify each of them. Wander's phone ends up ringing, and he even asks if by chance the president was giving him more trouble. And that was exactly it, so much so that the next day he goes to school earlier. The festival flags were damaged and the president asked for his help to fix them with Sophia. He explains to the redhead that the president wanted to save money for the festival, so they would have to repair those flags. The girl says that president is a spoiled rich girl and doesn't even know what saving means, and she even comments that everything that president really wants is to humiliate him. But deep down she was enjoying spending time with Wander. At that moment she asks, "What is that?" since there was a flag with her name written on it, and Wander said he signed her up for the track and field club. Since she was very good at jumping over the school wall, he entered her in the long jump competition and also in pole vault. The girl gets thoughtful, asking if that really made any sense. Besides, you can invite your family to come watch the competitions. What do you think? In a serious way, she says she wasn't going to participate, and then she looks a bit sad, saying that her parents wouldn't be interested in watching her. After a long time, the flags were ready. They put the flags on the table, and when asked if she was leaving already, the girl said he could go alone. The guy thought it was strange and decided to stay outside to spy on what she was going to do. Going around the gym, he goes to a door and opening it carefully realizes she was practicing pole vault. He even goes home later because he spent the whole afternoon training. She was all sweaty and commented that after all, that skill of jumping walls was worth it. But what she didn't expect was to be surrounded by criminals again. They were waiting for her outside the school to teach her a lesson, and since she had broken the criminal's arm, they would do the same to her. But what they didn't know was that this girl was a little witch, and with shining eyes she thought of using her powers and ended up controlling their leader. 10 days go by and finally the day of the tournament arrived. Our dear redhead had prepared to participate in the competition, and Wander shouts saying he will be sitting in the first row in the parents' reserved area. But she says she doesn't even care if he watches or not, but we know the girl was super worried about that. She even says she only decided to participate because she had nothing else to do. The judges tell all the competitors to get ready, and from afar she keeps looking for her parents and Wander. She realizes her parents only cared about her little brother. Our hero knew that deep down Sophia just wanted her parents' attention. Unfortunately, they only gave attention to the younger brother. Now it was Sophia's turn. She was candidate number 4. She ends up managing to jump 75 men. Right after she surpasses her mark and jumps 85 men. On the 4th attempt she jumps 5 men high, and the other competitors wonder if by chance Sophia wasn't just a delinquent. She was doing very well and was in the fight to win the tournament. And when the girl looked back, she realized her parents didn't even care about her. They only kept giving attention to the little brother. Of course, that made her very sad. And the boy starts crying, saying that his phone ran out of battery. As he was throwing a tantrum, the girl's parents keep saying they were going to leave. Only 2 competitors were left, Sophia and another competitor who was waving to her parents. She saw her parents had left and was very sad because she had no one cheering. But at that moment, someone shouts loudly telling Sophia to give her all and win the championship. It was our hero. He was waving a giant flag with her name on it. Laughing and crying with happiness, she said Wander was a fool. Next, it was her turn to make the final jump, and with tears in her eyes, she kept saying this guy was a real idiot. All this time she had been left aside by her parents. They didn't care about her and only paid attention to the younger brother. That's why she became a delinquent. It was all to get attention. The pole ends up hitting the exact spot, and she was about to make the highest jump of her life. But at the last moment she gives up, crashing into the bar. The other students asked why she did that, since it was only about lifting her leg. Sophia had given up on winning the competition. Later, she lies down on the basketball court. Our hero had taken the silver medal for her and came to deliver it, in a melancholic way. She said she didn't want it and he could keep it. And even asks how he knew she was in that place. Actually, he saw that in the last 10 days she was training exactly in the gym. The girl asks if by chance he is a stalker. He knew she was just pretending to be a delinquent, only to get her family's attention. Unfortunately, we don't control where we are born, and it's as if we are already destined to have the family we have. The girl asks if he also came to mock her, since no one cared about her, but he said no. He cared about her, so he wasn't nobody. He even ends up giving a photo to the girl. Even if her parents didn't care, he was watching and cheering. Even if someone doesn't like you, there will always be other people cheering for your success. These people comfort you when you are sad and understand when you are down. Besides, they recognize when you achieve something. Extending his hands, he said that from now on she should focus on who really cared about her. She should stop pretending and acting, and be who she really was. Quite shy and looking away, she asks if he was watching her all this time. Of course. And today you were way more amazing than that day you jumped over the school wall. Wait a minute, what kind of stupid compliment is that? Those shameless crazy guys end up arriving at the gym again. For God's sake, guys, these guys don't give a single chapter of truce. But it seemed they were dominated by Sophia's spell. Our guy puts himself in front of the girl and she feels completely regretful because she had really placed an order on him earlier. That day when they were causing trouble, she put a spell on the guys telling them to destroy the competition flags, and she had done that just to get attention. But now she said they wouldn't need to destroy the flags and could cancel the spell. But that's not how the power of little witches worked, and the guy remained enchanted. What's happening? I can't cancel my own order. As the girl was putting herself in front to prevent him from destroying the flags, the guy lunges at her. But our hero manages to save her and even tells Sophia to run call the president for help. The troublemakers keep laughing, saying he's pretending to be a hero again. All this mess was her fault, and the girl wonders if she should let her friend suffer because of it. She even tries to give him an order, telling him to run away from there so he wouldn't get hit. But the system's power was activated and he became immune to the little witch's spells. She realized her spell hadn't worked. In a more serious tone, he tells her to go call the president immediately. Knowing she had no choice, she ends up following his order and runs off to ask for help. The system says this guy was enchanted by a little witch's power and the fight between the two is about to begin. So much that Wander immediately starts taking off his uniform. Sophia manages to run to the student council room, calling for the president. The security guard said she couldn't enter because President Liu was in a meeting, but the redhead simply jumps over the guards and lands on the other side. One of them comments that this girl jumps really high. The other tells him not to say things like that at a moment like this. Opening the door, she starts asking the president for help, saying Wander was in a critical situation. All stylish, Liu asks, "What's happening with the vice president?" Sophia explains that a group of delinquents invaded the school gym and started confronting him in a fight. Immediately, the president stands up, saying she won't let these delinquents mess with her people. A blonde girl named Kelly, head of the sports department, said she was also going to watch the fight. Meanwhile, our hero was facing all of them at the same time, but it was difficult to face them all, and when he was about to get hit, the security guards arrive and save the day. The president ordered all her guards to arrest the criminals and, in a few moments, they were all detained. The only thing the chubby guy wanted was to destroy those flags, and when throwing the guards aside, he runs to destroy them. While he was almost reaching them, he gets kicked in the face. Our protagonist gives the chubby guy a kick, sending him flying, and so the guy falls unconscious on the floor. Kelly, who is watching, asks if Wander trains in any martial skill. The redhead immediately runs, asking if Wander got hurt. Actually, his leg was hurting from the kick he just took. All this to defend those flags, even though it wasn't that important. When leaving, she helps him and asks why he didn't let the chubby guy destroy the flags. He said it was because those flags were very important since they made them together. Feeling guilty, she apologizes, and our hero asks why she is apologizing. She always used extreme methods just to get attention. All this because she wanted to receive some affection and love from her parents. But those methods ended up hurting the people who really cared about her. That's why the girl decides she's going to change her behavior. From now on, she won't use that method anymore and will pay more attention to the people who really liked her. Smiling, our hero said he didn't know what the method was but hopes it works. She thinks that was practically a declaration of love and ends up pinching our hero. Since Sophia hadn't been using her powers in recent days, the system says our guy did well. He had won her over, so the girl was no longer using the power for evil things. Julia appears asking if he got hurt again. and our guy realized his arms were bruised but didn't even know why those bruises appeared. Worried, she keeps saying he should be careful not to get hurt. 2 weeks pass and he notices the bruises were appearing again. His body was all injured and the system says that in fact he is a sleepwalker. Our guy takes the system and asks if she wasn't watching his body while he slept, but the system says she also sleeps. She also has rights and isn't obliged to work 24 hours a day. This is the first system he sees that needs to sleep, and before sleeping he plans to find out if he really is a sleepwalker. That's why these bruises were appearing on his body, and for that to work he plans to stay awake all night. It was already 3 a.m. and our guy was still there, managing to stay awake. If you can stay awake until 3 a.m., comment there. If he really was a sleepwalker, he would find out tonight. But it was difficult and he even screams to stay awake. The system keeps saying he needs to go to sleep soon. If he stayed awake, he wouldn't have energy the next day. But it could also be the power of some little witch, and that's why he activates resistance mode so he won't be enchanted. And we see that there really was a little witch trying to activate her power, but our hero tells the system to turn off the resistance effect. That's because the little witch could get suspicious and he wanted to catch her in the act. Obeying Wander's wishes, the system turns off and at that moment she disappears and our hero falls into an illusion. It seemed like his body was being teleported somewhere else, and down below he can see a light shining falling exactly inside it. And when he wakes up he is in Kelly's body, that girl who was head of the sports department. This was very strange and he wonders what happened. Looking around he realizes he is in another room and even a basketball is lying on the floor. He still hadn't realized he was in a girl's body. When he looked down, he saw large breasts and did the first thing anyone would do. Looking in the mirror, he realizes he is transformed into Kelly, a schoolmate. The system says this is the power of a little witch, and that they discovered she was one of those parasites. The system asks what the heck the boy is doing. He gives a little excuse, saying he was just checking if it was really a girl. Next, he wonders if this is why those marks were appearing on his body. Xiao ends up waking up during the night to go to the bathroom and notices her brother's bedroom door is open and the light is on. Upon entering, she sees that no one is in the room. Since the system is connected to Wander's consciousness, he also ends up being transported to that place. To find out why Kelly was switching bodies with him, the boy decides to investigate. But before that, he says he will put on some clothes first. Arriving at the wardrobe, he begins searching through the clothes. The system doesn't stop staring at our hero's body, so he ends up wrapping the system in a sheet while entering the bathroom to change clothes. The guy was full of fuss. After a few minutes, he comes out of the bathroom with his clothes changed, and the system asks why it took so long. Since the room is full of basketball decorations, he already imagines that the girl is obsessed with the sport. But it seems that things are covered in dust, so it looks like she had lost interest. Opening the drawers, he starts rummaging through the items and notices a notebook. It was a diary where Kelly wrote everything about her days. He begins reading her diary from a few years ago, when she was participating in basketball tournaments. She was one of the best players, but after suffering a serious accident, she underwent surgery and the doctor said she could never step on a court again. Her classmates came to visit her, but nothing could take away her sadness, until the notes started turning into scribbles. Playing basketball was the most important thing in her life, and that's exactly why Kelly switched bodies with our hero, to be able to play basketball. And we see that this is exactly what the blonde girl was doing. She even comments that this body is amazing, very fast and strong, and she says she doesn't even hear that annoying sound anymore. Before the spell's time ran out, she decides to play a little longer. We see that our hero's little sister is there in the background. It was strange that he went out in the middle of the night to practice basketball, and she even asked what's wrong with her brother. There's Kelly using our hero's body to the fullest. She ends up missing the shot and the ball falls near the fence. He goes there to get the ball and notices the little girl watching him. He didn't know this little girl was his sister and says she is very cute. Saying goodbye, he tells her to be careful on her way home. Because he said she was cute, the little girl gets all excited. Meanwhile, Wander was snooping through her things and when putting the diary away, notices something inside. It was a timer showing 30 minutes. With that, he deduced that the maximum time of the spell was 30 minutes, so he should return to his original body soon so the girl wouldn't suspect him. Again, he wraps the system in a sheet and changes clothes. He does it very slowly to enjoy every moment. The system stays outside asking why it's taking so long. He feels embarrassed to be changing clothes, but it's necessary so Kelly wouldn't get suspicious. On the other hand, the girl is also returning to our hero's normal clothes. Looking in the mirror and seeing he had a fully muscular body, the girl felt a little in love, so to speak. But she couldn't understand that something wrong was happening, so Joe quickly lies down on the bed. At that moment, the spell ends and he returns to his body. Noticing that his muscles were tired, he deduced that she was really using his body to play basketball. He even thinks she should take better care of other people's bodies since she left his body full of bruises. Returning to Kelly, she feels something strange with her body. It's because he had left the bra too tight. Arriving home, Joe wonders if her brother has also returned and, using her power, starts spying on him. She notices that the boy is studying some strategy and tries to hear what he is saying. Could it be that Big Brother is studying basketball strategies, but she ends up hearing him say something about winning over a girl and immediately thinks it's her. She even says this kind of love is forbidden because it's considered taboo, and Inhara in her head says this is wrong, but the little demon says they aren't even blood siblings, only adopted siblings. That's why she is nurturing a romance with him. Guys, I know this is weird, so go complain to the Chinese. It's not my fault. The next morning they wake up together. He says good morning to his little sister and says he wants to ask her something. This shocks the little one, thinking he's going to say something romantic. Actually, he wanted to know about Kelly, who was in the sports department, but his little sister thought he was going to ask something else, so she ended up creating a very embarrassing situation. Poor Xiao even imagines that he is only practicing basketball to be able to go out with the girl, and she imagines that this was exactly what he was talking about yesterday, about winning over a woman. She sighs deeply and Wander asks if something is wrong. At that moment she grabs Wander's hand and immediately applies an arm lock, asking what he intends to do with that street cat. For her to release him, the boy gives her 3 tickets, and since the prizes were very good, she ends up letting him go. In the afternoon, he inspires Kelly, looking for the right moment to start a conversation with her. This time, he goes straight to the point. Approaching the blonde girl, he asks if she is free. Because she arrived out of nowhere, the girl thinks he discovered that they had switched bodies. In reality, he would like her help. In a somewhat rude way, she tells him to speak quickly. The boy takes a deep breath and says he would like to play basketball and for her to be his coach. Comment down below, guys, which little witch is your favorite? Personally, I like Julia more, but comment down below, especially since more little witches will appear in this video. A few days later, he was becoming very skilled at basketball. They had been training together for about 5 days, and he was waiting for the right moment to confess to her. 2 shadows appear in his head. It was Kelly telling him he shouldn't relax his muscles. Sophia was watching all this and asks why they are so close. She notices some scratches on the tree, and the one who was furious there was her sister. Xiao wanted Sophia's help to find out who that street cat was. Meanwhile, the boy was eating a lunchbox with little food. He said that it wasn't enough to satisfy his hunger. Already stuffing a piece of meat into his mouth, the girl says that it is necessary for him to maintain great physical shape. Using X-ray power, Xiao discovered that Kelly's weak point was her knee. Taking advantage of this information, Sophia goes to a boy to ask for help and casts a spell, saying it was for him to bump into Kelly and make her fall to the ground. Shouting from afar, she warns him not to bump so hard. After Wander finished eating, he said he was going to get a bottle of water for himself. When he stands up, the enchanted guy comes after her and ends up bumping strongly into the girl's left knee, which was her weak point. What was supposed to be a simple bump turns into a powerful impact. She crashes into the basketball hoop with full force, even breaking the screw. A serious accident was about to happen. The basketball hoop was going to fall on the girl, but our hero ends up throwing himself in front to save her. But the worst happens. His leg gets crushed. Realizing what happened, the 2 girls appear there in desperation. Julia had also heard the noise and comes running to see what happened. The 4 girls join forces to remove the object from the boy's leg until they finally succeed. They realize that he was seriously injured and would need to be hospitalized. That one goes there, grabs the boy by the collar and asks why he did that. But, amazingly, he didn't know what had happened, and Kelly saw that he was telling the truth. Since Sophia was apologizing, Kelly suspected that she had something to do with it. Later, our protagonist wakes up in the hospital. All the girls were there, accompanying him. Julia explains what happened and says that, thanks to the boy, Kelly didn't suffer a worse injury. But, unfortunately, he had a broken leg and would need to stay in a cast for a few weeks. Looking to the side, he notices that the girls are gone, and knowing their powers, he already imagines it was their doing. But he knows it was an accident. Peeling an apple, Julia says the boy is getting involved in many risks. All this to save other girls. She was very worried about the boy because they were great friends. Now that he had an injured leg, their meeting would have to be postponed for a few days. He ends up agreeing and says that as soon as he gets better, he will go out with her. After returning to school, he receives many gifts, since the boy was popular. Julia notices that Wander is becoming even more popular with the girls, and that, if she isn't careful, Sophia would end up getting more of his attention. After class, he is already leaving, and the little redhead follows our protagonist to make sure he is safe. He turns around and asks why she is following him secretly. A little embarrassed, she says it is to make sure he isn't robbed and doesn't fall to the ground. After giving excuses, she goes to help him because that's what she wanted. Looking at Sophia's neck, he notices it is injured. She says that these injuries have appeared recently. With that, he already imagines that Kelly was using her power on the girl to play basketball, especially since his leg was broken, so it wouldn't be possible to use his body. After taking him home, she says that tomorrow he should wait, because she would come to help him get to school. Our boy holds Sophia's arm and asks her to wait a little. Of course, she turns red like a tomato. He wanted her to stay at his house because he was very weakened due to his leg. This invitation ends up surprising the girl. She didn't imagine he would ask for something like that. He takes the girl to his room and says he will sleep in the living room, or he puts a bag next to the bed, and she asks what he ordered for delivery. He says he bought essential things for them to use at night, and even asks if she prefers the soft one or the thicker one. The girl starts thinking naughty thoughts upon hearing these words. "Calm down, my daughter. It's not what you're thinking, just choose quickly. Do you prefer the thicker one or the thinner one?" Jumping out of bed, she says she wasn't prepared for this. But actually, he was referring to the toothbrush, about the softer, thick bristles. He asks what she thought it was, and a little embarrassed, she gives a little excuse, saying she just doesn't like brushing her teeth much. Meanwhile, Xiao on the other side was dying of jealousy. The scene shifts to a little later at night. The girl was really hoping that our hero would enter the room, but he was a respectful boy and just wanted to see if by any chance Kelly would use the girl's body to play basketball. The system asked if our hero was going to copulate with that woman, but he said no, it wasn't that. Now he was starting to convince himself that these powers were truly evil and only caused harm. The system makes a joke, asking if now he will believe her. It was already 3:37 a.m., and Sophia was sleeping sprawled across the bed. He goes there to check if she had already woken up, but it seems she hadn't. Minutes later, Kelly had taken Sophia's body and, upon opening her eyes, realized that this was Wander's room, but she hadn't taken control of his body, only Sophia's body. She even imagines that the two are having a secret affair. At that moment, our hero arrives and asks if she had woken up. Startled, she asks why she is in this house. He asks if she doesn't remember that he had asked her to take care of his leg. She is confused, but she has to pretend, since she is supposed to act like Sophia. Outside, he explains that he asked for her help to take the medicine because of insomnia. He could sleep very well, but after some time he started having trouble falling asleep. Without this medicine, he can't sleep anymore. He had heard that when a person takes insomnia medicine for a long time, they end up becoming dependent on it. The system asks if he is serious because it has never seen him take any medicine. Kelly, using Sophia's body, says that she also takes medicine to sleep, and he starts saying various things implying that her power is causing this to him. Basically, he wants to make her feel guilty, thinking that her power to control other people's bodies is causing insomnia. Extending his hand, he asks the girl if she wants to try sleeping tonight without using the medicine. She gets embarrassed because it seems like he is speaking directly to her. She ends up agreeing to sleep without taking the medicine and releases Sophia's body from her spell. Thus the girl faints because after all, Sophia was asleep. The one who wasn't asleep was Kelly. Returning to her own body, she asks if everything he said was meant for her, and if in the end her power was causing insomnia for others. The next morning, Sophia wakes up saying she had some strange dreams. Looking down, she realizes that her clothes weren't how she left them before, and starts screaming, asking what our hero did to her yesterday. Xiao jumps on Wander, asking if he took advantage of that street cat. But deep down, Sophia was a little sad because she couldn't wake up and saw that our hero had come to visit her, if you know what I mean. Then she asks if his leg had recovered and mentions that he couldn't do anything to her because his leg was injured. The boy explains that he only went there to cover her, because it seemed like she was cold at night. What he wanted was to win over Kelly, since she was another little witch. Meanwhile, Sophia's mission was to win over Wander, since she was madly in love with him. The next day, the one going to sleep there to help him was precisely Kelly, but the blonde ended up using her power on Wander, and when he woke up, he wondered why she had switched bodies with him. His leg injury hadn't even improved, so it didn't make sense for her to use his body to play basketball. At that moment, he hears the door opening, so he lies down on the bed quickly as the door opens. Someone was entering the room. The handsome guy was pretending to sleep, but took the opportunity to peek and realized that Kelly was using his body right beside him. Don't ask me what she was trying to do. Surprisingly, she ends up climbing onto the bed. Our hero was holding himself back from waking up and pretends to know nothing. He tries to smell her and then realizes this is wrong because it goes against Wander's consent. At that moment, he asks the system to resist this power, and upon activating the resistance effect, their bodies are reverted back. The girl realizes he was awake on top of her, but our hero, being a gentleman, simply covers her with the sheet. Comment below if you would also be cold and calculating like this, or if you would face the situation head-on. The next morning, Kelly wakes up startled and wonders why she tried to do that. It seems that deep down she wanted to force Wander to fall in love with her. Sophia asks what that noise was last night in the room next door. The system keeps annoying our hero, asking why he didn't confront Kelly. He explains that the girl did that to try to influence his thoughts and make him feel in love with her. 2 months pass, and he finally has his leg fully recovered. He went to a concert together with Julia. It was a show of an idol named Jer. The slogan of this girl is that she puts on an ultra-flawless and perfect show. The student council president had given 2 tickets for Julia to attend the show. Wander asks why the student council would have tickets for this performer. Julia says it's because she was a student at the school. The event was about to start, and she welcomed everyone on stage. After announcing her song, she began singing magnificently. But our hero noticed that Julia was a little shy, and moreover, trembling as if she were scared. This was because someone was trying to take advantage of her. Turning around, Wander saw no suspicious person, especially since there were so many people there that anyone could easily hide. After holding Julia, he placed her in front, saying it was so she could see better. He joked, saying they looked like a romantic couple, but at that moment he felt something on his leg. It was precisely the shameless guy trying to make a move on Julia. My God, this guy doesn't even spare men. The system says it's a man wearing a hood and overweight. At that moment, Wander quickly turned and managed to grab the criminal. The guy tried to run but lost his balance and bumped into the stage lights. This distracted the singer, who ended up messing up the song. She apologized, saying she had made a mistake, and the audience found it strange since Seer never misses her songs. Detaining the criminal, Wander asked Julia to call the security, but suddenly he started feeling dizzy. Unexpectedly, he ended up going back 15 minutes to when Julia was saying she had won the tickets. This was strange, as he had already experienced this a few minutes before. Noticing that he was acting strangely, Julia asked if something had happened. He realized he had gone back 15 minutes. Looking at the clock, he was certain that was exactly what happened. There was probably some little witch in that place. He asked the system what had happened, and it said he had probably gained some sort of resistance to the witch's spells, since he had already resisted several times. He imagined that the parasite had lodged in that guy, and that he was the little witch. He made that face because he imagined he would have to deal with that fat, greasy guy. Julia saw that he looked discouraged and asked if he wasn't enjoying the show, but Wander said it wasn't that. He was just not used to this kind of event, and told her to stay in front so she could see the stage better, only to protect her from that shameless guy. And as expected, the same thing happened again. My God, this time it was faster than before. He knew it was the hooded fat guy causing the trouble. Imagining he was the little witch, he grabbed his arm. "You won't run away again, you shameless man." But the guy managed to free himself and again bumped into the stage light. But this time, GQ put her hand in front to prevent the light from hitting her face and even gave a little laugh, saying this time she didn't fall for the trap. So now we see that she is the little witch, not that fat guy. We were immobilizing the guy on the floor, but he managed to escape, and while fleeing got his foot caught in a cable, cutting the power and causing the audience to protest because the place went dark. Sighing, the girl complained, saying things always happen to ruin her show. Using her power, she went back 15 minutes. The boy felt that dizziness again, and again he returned to the moment when the girl was saying she had won the student council president's tickets. Before starting the show, Ashir was already telling the security to watch the lights and also the power cables. Again, the fat guy managed to escape from our hero. Now he bumped into the speaker wires. Screaming, she realized that something always comes to ruin everything. Using her power, she redid everything and asked the security to also take care of the speakers. But our hero still hadn't realized that it was the singer who had the power, not the fat guy. But when everything seemed perfect, the singer went off key, and so she went back in time once again. Everything happened as planned, but this time the guy said he would burn everything and really attacked with a firebomb. Jir used her power to redo everything, but this time the guy was going to use a smoke bomb. He really threw a stinky smoke bomb. Not even Wander could stand this cycle of rewinding 15 minutes anymore. He needed to find out quickly who had this power. After going back in time about 10 times, the guy was already exhausted. Jir realized that now there was no problem with her show, especially since Wander had let the guy touch his leg and only confronted him afterward, outside. As she got closer, she asked the fat guy if he liked taking advantage of people, and then immediately gave that shameless man a beating. He told Julia to call the security guards again, but the guy managed to escape by slipping out of his clothes. But the one there to save the day was Jir. With a serious look, she said she wouldn't let this guy ruin her show, and landed a kick right in the shameless man's groin. The guy fell unconscious, and the audience cheered. Later, she thanked the two for helping, and as a token of gratitude, gave 2 tickets for the couple to return to her shows. She also told Julia that she had chosen her boyfriend very well, as he was athletic and handsome. When saying goodbye, she hoped to see them again soon. The only thing Wander thought about was how he would manage to win over an idol like her. A little embarrassed, Julia held onto Wander's shirt and asked if he would like to have dinner with her. The girl had planned everything. She wanted to invite him to the restaurant and dedicate her love to him there. To find the perfect restaurant, she asked him what his favorite food in the city was. When he was about to answer, she lightly touched his finger. That way she discovered the type of food he liked and also his favorite restaurant. She even apologizes in her mind, saying it was cheating, but it was for his good since it would be the perfect love confession. Wander took her to a taxi and said he wanted to take her to eat at a special place. The girl agreed, and he took her to a place called Bagalar. This was the place she went to when she was a child. She even wonders how he knew this place was special. Wander says he took the essays she had written over the past 2 years from the library. He spent a lot of time reading all the essays she had written and therefore discovered that this restaurant was important to her, as she went there with her family when she was little. A little embarrassed, she said she never imagined anyone would be interested in her essays. Once inside, she mentions that she never wrote the name of this place and asks how he found out. Actually, she said the place she ate at when she was a child had a friendly cat and was near a cafe at Station 7. Putting all these facts together, it was easy for him to find this restaurant. At that moment, she realized she had only used her power as a cheat and hadn't really made an effort to discover something about him. But we know, guys, that all this was a tactic by our hero to show her that she didn't need to use these powers to get to know people better. A waitress appeared and they placed their order, but she was feeling guilty, saying she didn't deserve to confess her feelings to him. At that moment, the student council president and her friends came to the restaurant and started teasing our protagonist, saying he preferred to go out with that girl instead of them. Julia stood up and said that Wander was free to choose to go out with whoever he wanted and didn't need anyone's permission. This shocked the girls, and even our hero didn't expect it. After opening up and saying what she really thought, she felt embarrassed but also felt good to get it off her chest. The girls admitted that their teasing had gone too far and apologized. Julia said it was nothing. Then she thought it wasn't so bad after all to have said what she really felt. Our hero gave a thumbs up, saying she did very well. While they were eating, Lou appeared, pulled a chair, and as she sat down asked if she could join them. Wander said it wasn't polite to abandon her friends at another table, but that was because Lou wanted to ask something important from the vice president. She wanted him to give private lessons to a student who had missed many classes due to work. And that girl appeared. It was none other than the idol Shire, who had missed classes because she was performing. She already knew our protagonist and asked if they were a couple she had met recently, getting excited and saying it would be very interesting to study with him. Julia, seeing this, felt a little jealous. Guys, I confess I felt a little sorry for her, and just look at the president's mischievous face. It seemed like she was doing these things on purpose. Later, when saying goodbyes, Julia thanked him for having that meeting with him. He said she did very well and even expressed her feelings. The boy knew she was feeling jealous because he had many girls around him, but without touching on that topic, he said he hoped to see her at school tomorrow. The girl ended up calling for him, and when turning around didn't have the courage to confess, and just pretended, telling him to be careful going home. She wanted to confess but felt she wasn't good enough since he was very popular. The next day he was giving the extra lessons, but Sophia also appeared for private lessons and used all her seductive skills. Wander asked why she was in the tutoring class if her grades had improved. She gave a little excuse, saying she wanted to study a bit more, making Zir extremely jealous in the background. When approaching and leaning her chest against our hero, Sophia said she wanted help with this exercise. Of course, the blonde would feel uncomfortable and started shouting, saying the redhead was just getting in the way. "What's up, girl? Are you jealous because the master is giving me more attention?" With that, they started fighting while our hero said these girls were hopeless. After a few days, they were preparing for the show, but Sheer had twisted her ankle. Sophia made it clear she only came to this show to be close to the master, but Wander ended up slapping her on the head. Reviewing Zir's exercises, our hero noticed that she always rewrote the sentence completely when she made a mistake. The girl said that no kind of mistake was tolerated, so she had to start from scratch for everything to be done perfectly. Sophia said that Zir was picky, and that's why they started fighting. One of the event organizers appeared, saying the substitute singer wouldn't show up. Since Sheer had twisted her ankle, she couldn't sing, and the substitute was stuck in traffic. Then our protagonist pointed at Sophia, saying she could sing on stage. The girl already imagined herself in front of a crowd of people. Meanwhile, in the audience, everyone was complaining, saying they had been waiting for half an hour. Who appeared to perform the show was precisely Sophia. The redhead was a little nervous, but determined to sing and give her best. She even thought she was mistaken, as she thought she wouldn't feel the pressure of singing in front of a large audience. Guri had said that Sophia wouldn't be able to sing, but since she was proud, she accepted the challenge. Wander still turned to Gria. If there was any mistake on stage, she shouldn't worry about it. The audience was angry, asking who this substitute was. The other band members asked if Sophia was ready, and she said yes. Thus the music began to play. She knew all the band's lyrics, and from the side of the stage, Sheer commented that the girl sang well. But there was a very difficult part of the song that almost everyone sang off-key. Our hero commented that he knew this, but it wasn't for Sheer to worry so much. In fact, he knew very well that the song was difficult to sing, and that's why he put Sophia to do it. Wait, if you knew she was going to make mistakes, then why did you make her go on stage? Calm down, Sheer. Just watch and trust Sophia. The guys were giving their best, and Sophia realized that this part of the song would be difficult to sing. Even so, she tried, even if a little off-key. The people in the audience noticed that she sang off-key. In Sheer's mind, everything was ruined, and she imagined people would start booing. However, Wander assured the girl that she should trust him. They checked social media and saw that the substitute was actually stuck in traffic. Sophia ended up going on stage at the last minute and was giving her best so the show could continue. With that, everyone started shouting encouraging phrases for Sophia. Even though she was off-key in one part of the song, people liked it, saying she was giving her maximum effort. This made the redhead emotional. Sheer didn't imagine that even if someone made mistakes, people could still like it. She started to stagger and remembered her mother demanding that she be perfect in everything. Our hero was there to support the girl and said she shouldn't worry about perfection because mistakes are part of life. After the show, the blonde went to thank Sophia for being the substitute. The girl admitted that the pressure on stage was very high and that the blonde was very talented. Even though they were getting along now, they ensured that neither would take the master from the other. They basically declared war to see who would win Wander. Outside, Julia found out that our protagonist was at this show. It was the student council president who sent her the message, telling her to bring something for him to eat. When she approached the corridor, she heard Wander's voice along with Jir's. He was helping her walk because of her injured foot and commented that he realized Wander did all that just for her to understand she didn't need to worry about perfection. From now on, she wouldn't be obsessed with making everything happen exactly as planned. At that moment, he realized he was slowly winning her over. Julia went to Jir to ask that Wander only follow her on social media, wanting him to be a fan of the girl. Of course, Julia got jealous. She ended up leaving, dropping the lunchbox on the floor. Already on the street, she was very sad and, incredibly, could hear people's thoughts even without touching them. This was strange because she had never done this before. Walking through the streets, she started hearing everyone's thoughts. Of course, she panicked and started running. When she got home, she locked herself in her room and her parents complained, saying she had been very rebellious lately. But imagine, guys, you start hearing the thoughts of thousands of people, all at the same time. The next day, they were in the tutoring class. Sophia wanted to know why Julia also appeared there and commented that she had hidden intentions. Even though Julia was one of the best students in school, she wanted to use the extra time to improve her grades. Our protagonist went there and hit a poster on Sophia's head, telling her to stop teasing. While they argued, Julia poked Julia on the shoulder and apologized for mistaking her as Wander's girlfriend. She said it was okay, since many people got confused as they always went out together. When Julia asked if the blonde liked Wander, she got embarrassed. In response, she said Wander was trustworthy and that she liked him, but she wouldn't lose to Sophia. Julia asked if Julia was so confident even though Sophia arrived first. The blonde said there's no such thing as arriving first. When it comes to love, the heart speaks louder. Hearing this, Julia thought and realized she also had chances. I don't know about you, but I think our protagonist will cause total chaos with these girls. It will turn into a full-blown war, everyone fighting to see who will end up with him. When it was time to return to school, he went with Julia. She asked why the boy agreed to give tutoring lessons to Julia. He said it was because he wanted to help her improve her grades. But she realized that Wander had lied. Upon returning home, she looked in the mirror and started talking to her reflection. The parasite that the system had mentioned manifested, began controlling Julia's body and planted negative feelings, saying she should do everything to make Wander only hers. The other girls didn't truly love him, so they didn't deserve to have him only for themselves. Julia tried to resist the parasite's evil influence, and when falling to the floor asked who this girl was. The parasite approached and said it was also Julia. They were the same person. The people who hid their feelings were all wrong. That's why she should make other people speak only the truth. The parasite begins to pressure the poor girl. Julia, no one loves you, so why don't you let me control everything? You are weak and incapable of changing anything. Only I can do this. Next, Julia leaves the room, and her stepfather asks her to get some water. She ignores him and walks past. And when he insists a second time, she tells him to get off the couch and go get it himself. This makes her stepfather angry, asking why she has been so rebellious lately. When he touches the girl, he says he won't let his stepdaughter treat him this way. But when she turns around, she has an evil look. We see that even her eyes had changed, and she was dominated by the parasite, casting a spell on her stepfather. He was only treating her badly to release stress from work. While Wander was taking a shower, the system gives an alert and warns that the parasite invasion has begun. When he leaves the bathroom, the system says he needs to check which of the witches was dominated by the parasite. He goes to his sister and grabs her neck firmly, looking deeply into her face to see if she was not dominated. Here we confirm that Wander knew all along that his little sister was one of the witches. After making sure she wasn't dominated by the parasite, he decides to leave the house. Sophia hears someone ringing the doorbell. When she opens the door, she sees Wander. He comes very close and asks if he could kiss her. This catches the little redhead by surprise, and she pushes Wander, saying she is not ready. At that moment, he realizes that she also has not been dominated by the parasite. As he leaves, she wonders why he didn't kiss her and regrets not accepting. Falling to the floor, she says she missed the opportunity again. In Kelly's room, she slaps him in the face because he wanted to kiss her. When going to Jir's house, she also says it's not appropriate to kiss before a date. Only Julia remained for him to check. At that moment, little Zhao hears the doorbell. When she opens the door, it's evil Julia standing there. She asks where Wander is, but the little sister says he just left. When she touches the girl's arm, she begins to corrupt her with the parasite's power. A great dark energy dominates the building, and the system alerts that the parasite is controlling other people. Wander starts running as fast as possible, sensing the dark energy coming from the apartment. People run desperately through the streets, and the system says he must activate parasite resistance and move quickly. He does exactly that, imagining that his little sister is in danger. At that moment, all the people begin to be dominated by evil feelings. What Wander feared most happens. People are being influenced by the worms. A great tower of evil energy concentrates in one place, and he is shocked. The energy comes from his room. He runs as fast as he can. Upon arriving home, he opens the door running and sees his little sister fallen on the floor, and Julia with a malignant aspect sitting on the sofa. The girl tells him to stay calm, as his little sister is fine, she just fainted. She can read all of Wander's thoughts. She is not a puppet of the parasite. In fact, this is the real Julia, she says. Wander wonders if Julia has access to the underworld. She laughs and confirms, saying she chose the right boy because he is amazing. She always dreamed of a world where people spoke the truth without needing to guess what they meant. That's why she corrupts people's hearts so they only speak the truth. Now that the dream is coming true, she will live in an eternal paradise. The dark energy begins to spread throughout the city. Wander says that her plan is not good, as people would become zombies. What she plans seems good in theory, but in practice would be disastrous. The girl says he is wrong because people are already bad and dishonest in daily life. He knows what she says makes sense, but it's not the best solution. At that moment, the girl hugs him and says her goal is to create a perfect world where they can be together. He starts feeling dizzy. The girl tries to enter his mind, but he frees himself to avoid being dominated. With an evil face, she says she is the best person to be with him because she knows him completely. Since she had read his entire mind, she knew what he wanted: to stop the parasites. She even asks who told her to like him. She could very well eliminate all the parasites from the other witches and solve the problem once and for all. He says that would be very good, but her method is not very reliable. She tries to convince him, saying it would be the best thing so they could live happily ever after. And since she could read all his thoughts, she knew he also agreed with this. After she created the ideal world, they could even have many children. But he asks why the hell should he like her? That's logical. Since I helped you fulfill your wish, you must like me. But when she takes his phone, she ends up seeing that Wander sent messages to Sophia. Wait, when did she take my phone? At that moment, she realizes that our boy liked that little redhead. He tries to escape so he won't be dominated by her. And after grabbing his sister, he goes outside the apartment smiling. Julia says this won't help at all. When she snaps her fingers, Wander, already on the street, notices that something has changed. It's as if Julia could manipulate reality. He realizes the entire environment is shifting. When touching that place, he realizes it's only an illusion and even ends up breaking the glass. After that wall shatters, he ends up in the shopping mall, the same one where he met Yulia before. Some people, transformed into a kind of zombie, end up surrounding him, preventing him from escaping. A portal forms behind him, and the one who comes out is Julia, asking if he won't accept her proposal. The place where they were was the inner world. Basically, he was trapped inside his own consciousness. She comments that her power is exactly this: to read and control people's consciousness. Since she had trapped Wander inside his own mind, he wouldn't be able to escape. Next, she orders her soldiers to capture the boy. He kicks the zombies, but soon after he ends up being caught. Xiao's cut falls to the ground. Trying to resist the pressure, the real Julia asks them to stop. Wander notices that the girl is trying to resist, but the parasite will allow Julia to take back her body. Returning to full control of the girl, the parasite says that everything will be over since he did not accept her proposal. Since he didn't accept willingly, he would have to accept by force. As she approaches the boy, she says that from now on he will have no alternatives and plants a big kiss on him. He realizes that this is being done to erase his memories. Trying to resist, he admits that in fact he likes Sophia and not Julia. With a slightly strange face, the girl says she will erase those memories and force him to like her. But Wander cannot let that happen. He asks the system to activate spell resistance, and that is exactly what happens. Since he was trapped inside the consciousness, he manages to escape that place and appears above them, asking the system to help him find a way out. The entity says he will have to find a gap in this illusion to escape, but the side effects of the resistance ability were already arriving. A woman goes up the escalator and notices that Wander is hiding on the upper floor. Julia can see this through that woman and orders all the zombies to capture the boy. Several soldiers start chasing Wander, who flees as fast as possible. He passes through the system trying to escape, and the entity wonders if he managed to find a flaw in the illusion. He runs to the third floor and realizes he has reached a dead end. The people dominated were already surrounding him, and when he was about to be caught, a portal opens behind him. Who comes out is Julia, saying he will have no escape and will be hers for the rest of eternity. She approaches again to continue the process of erasing his memory, but he smiles, saying she had bitten the bait. When their lips touch, Wander emits a strong light and manages to break free from the illusion. They appear in another room. This was Julia's house. She asks what he did to leave that parallel universe. He explains that his strategy was to let her energy flow into his body and create a reverse illusion. She was trapped inside her own consciousness, but he admits it was a risky bet. Smiling, the girl says that it won't help because his resistance to spells was already running out. She could wait until he became weak and was dominated again, and sits down saying she has all the time in the world for that. He says that if what she wants is honesty, by dominating him she won't get it, because she would be forcing him. Ironically, she says she doesn't care about that. At that moment, she has a vision of the past. When she was a little girl, her father had died, and her mother tried to marry another man. The parasite says that these memories are very important. At that moment, little Julia pulls her mother's clothes and tells her to stay calm, promising to behave so that the new dad would be good to her. The mother is embarrassed to hear this from little Julia. Wander was forcing Julia to see these past memories. Her trauma happened because of that day, shaping her personality. Screaming, the parasite tells the boy to shut up. And so we finish the first part of Wander and the Little Witches. This work here is really good, guys. At least I really enjoyed it. Comment below which of the witches is your favorite. Mine is still Julia, so comment below so I know which one you prefer. Leave a like and a comment because it is very important for YouTube to recommend our video to more people. I will leave another video from the channel as a recommendation that I'm sure you'll like. So, see you there. Other than that, that's it. Thanks, and see you later, everyone.